Do you know who are the people that are asked the most questions? Have a guess. Louder? Kids. Well, kids ask a lot of questions, but actually it's moms that are asked most questions of all. They're asked most questions in an hour than a primary school teacher, a doctor, or a nurse. A study conducted in the United Kingdom discovered that girls, age 4, are the most curious ones. They ask the incredible amount of questions, of 390 questions a day. That's an average of one question every 56 minutes while they're awake. Some of the most popular questions are, why is water wet? What are shadows made of? And where does the sky end? My daughter Jana, when she was 4, she warned me. She said, Mom, I'm going to ask you a difficult question. Where were we before we were in your belly? Other questions I've been asked recently by my kids are, why does Cinderella's glass slipper not turn into her old shoe at the stroke of midnight? Why do we take so much care of our hair if it's dead? And who invented letters? When and why do we stop asking all these intriguing questions? Do we stop being curious? Do we think we know it all? Are we afraid, maybe to look stupid? Or do we just not care anymore? Me too, I was an expert in generating questions at the age of 4. And somehow I never stopped asking questions. Well, I noticed that many people around me did. Question is a powerful tool. It is a key that can unlock many doors. It's a key to people, to ourselves, and to the world. Each of us has so many stories to tell, and often the key to a story is a question. Sometimes we need to try out several keys before the lock opens up, and sometimes no questions occur to us, and we sit in awkward silence. I used to sit at dinners and events accompanying my husband next to people I didn't know and often intimidated by who they were and what they knew, and I didn't know what to say to them. And then I got over my shyness and I started asking questions. Where do you come from? What do you do for work? And more importantly, what excites you in what you do? Why did you choose what you studied? Or what do you like to do in your free time? Sometimes I felt as if I had hit the jackpot, asking that one question that led to the telling of an incredible anecdote, a hobby we had in common, or a value we shared. Now, I would like to ask you to take a glance at your neighbor and ask yourself, what makes her smile? What is on his bucket list? What surprises him? What's one thing he tried not so long ago that he had never done before? Or what one item would he take on a trip around the world? Everybody we meet has so many stories to tell, and we can enrich our lives listening to them if only we know how to listen and ask the right questions. And what about the people we see every day? Our mom, our granddad, our brothers, our friends, our teachers, and our students. Do you know what drives them? What moves them? What are their stories? My dad died last year after a long struggle with cancer. And I was lucky to have the chance to ask him all the questions I had not asked until that day. You know, the time for asking questions is right now. For those of us who don't think they're all that interesting, there is good news. Todd Kashdan from George Mason University investigated that it's more important to be interested in cultivating and maintaining relationships than being interesting. It's the secret juice of relationships. When you are curious and ask people questions, and they tell you something interesting about themselves, they open up, they disclose, and they share, and they, in their turn, ask questions for you. And this sets up a virtuous cycle of giving and taking, which fosters intimacy. Now, a question is also a key to yourself. It can help you to identify who you are and what can make your life a thriving one. It can help you to clarify where your passions lay or your interests and what your values are. What would you do if you won the lotto? What would you do if somebody told you you're only 6 more months to live? What would you like people to say on your funeral? What kind of activities bring you the most joy and mental well-being? Questions like these are like stars that can orient us to lead a meaningful life and to create our own maps to navigate. And finally, questions are key to understand the world around us. These endless, tireless questioning toddlers with their 390 questions a day, they are figuring out the laws of the universe. Why is the sky blue? Why does ice float? Just as Newton and Darwin did with their questions. Why does an apple fall from a tree, but does the moon not fall to the earth? And why do the Galapagos Islands have so many species we cannot find elsewhere? The scientist is not a person who gives the right answers. He's one who asks the right questions, says the French anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss. Questions are tools to explore and investigate and to problem solve. Einstein said, if I had 1 hour to solve a problem and my life depended on it, I would use the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in 5 minutes. Questions can lead to action and to great innovations and inventions. Why is Guatemala poor? That was the question that led to the creation of this university, Universidad Francisco Marroquín. Back in 1943, in Santa Fe, while on a family vacation, the 3-year-old Jennifer asks her father when he takes a picture of her, "Daddy, why can't we see the picture right away?" Because, back in that time, you had to develop the pictures in the dark room before you could see them. Can you guess to what invention this question led? Polaroid. Yes, the girl's father happened to be Edwin Land, the inventor of the instant camera, Polaroid. So, what makes a good question? A good question is a sincere question that comes from genuine interest and curiosity and that seeks for understanding. Beware of the Trojan horses. They are suggestions, statements, or critique disguised as questions. You can often tell them apart by the way they're said. The greatest questions are not the questions that have a right answer, like we find in Google or in the Trivial Pursuit game. Truly great questions are those that push us to think and reflect and to create something new. And I want to end with a story I heard not so long ago. Once upon a time, a mother and her daughter were cooking together their first Thanksgiving dinner. And before putting the turkey in the oven, the mom chops off the turkey's legs and puts them on top. And the girl asks, "Mom, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And the mom answers, shrugging her shoulders, "This is the way my mom used to do it." So the next time the girl sees her grandma, she asks her, "Granny, why do you chop off the turkey's legs before you put it in the oven?" And she too shrugs her shoulders and says, "This is the way my mom used to do it." So in the next family gathering, the girl grabs the chance and asks her great-grandmother, "Great-grandmother, why do you chop off the turkey legs before putting it in the oven?" "Well, dear, it's quite simple. Back then, my oven was small, and the turkey in its hole didn't fit." So my question for you is, what and how many turkey legs are you chopping off? And what will be your next question? Thank you.